Welcome back. Well, we have a project video today. Now, I know we've been having shop spotlights on Sundays, but the shop spotlight that is coming up next in the rotation, the owner of the shop is on vacation, so we're going to postpone that until she gets back so that she can manage, the giveaway. And in the meantime, I have gotten requests to get back to projects. So we've got a good one today. And today's project is the care of vintage and antique rugs. So when we come back. Okay, I'm going to do this in a slightly different format today. It would have been nice if I could have simply done the project in front of you, but it's cleaning a rug. That's very hard to do sitting in front of a camera. So what I've done is I have created a slideshow of every step of the process. And what I'm going to do is give you an overview first, show you the slideshow, then I'm going to go into detail about each step that you've seen in the slideshow. Then I'm going to show you the slideshow again so that, you can put it all together for yourselves. So, how this began. I went back to Lutz Antiques because so many of you had said that you want to see more, and, I barely scratched the surface the last time I had been there. I walked in the door and Sasha reaches behind the counter, pulls out a rug, sets it on the counter, and said, "Guess what? Somebody called and bought this for you." Well, yes, indeed. Colleen Staver called Lutz and said, "I would like to buy that rug for Sue." Now, mind you, it wasn't even for sale. It was just shop property. But apparently she got them to sell it to her and gave it to me. So, thank you, Colleen. I was going to do exactly the same thing myself when I walked in the door, beg them to sell me that rug. Well, the rug is beautiful, but it's old and it needs attention. So what I did was got the rug, cleaned it, removed the fringe because I'm replacing the fringe, and at this point, right now, as I'm filming this, the rug is drying. There are going to be 2 more steps before it is complete, but it has to dry first. In other words, this is not, a do it in 5 minutes and done project. So let's take a quick look at the slideshow so that you can see the rug and see all of the steps, and then I'm going to explain to you in detail what I did. Okay, I've got notes to make sure that I cover everything, so you're going to see me glancing down at my notes. The first thing you saw was the first thing that happened to the rug. I brought it in the house, I laid it on the floor, and Audie immediately claimed it as his own. Okay, I guess we know who that rug belongs to now. So, Colleen, Audie sends his thanks too, because he likes his new rug. The first thing I did with the rug is I took measurements. I want to know exactly how big it is. The reason for this is I want a pad for the rug. If you have vintage or antique rugs, or frankly any kind of rug that is valuable to you for whatever reason, you want to put a pad underneath it. So I got the measurements, and the measurements on this rug are 27 inches by 35 inches. That makes it a 2x3 class size. Now, rugs are all divided into class sizes, and this is historical. If you are buying an Oriental rug, for example, you need to know this information. A class size is 2x3, 3x5, 4x6, 5x8, 9x12, and then larger size. The Artisticcottages, for example, is something like 35 feet by 17 feet. Oh, and the Artisticcottages, by the way, is probably the most famous rug in the world. It's a gorgeous antique Oriental rug that is just, it's breathtaking. So the class sizes that we ordinarily will deal with pretty much go up to 9x12. And then, of course, there are runners. And with newer rugs, they have sizes like 8 feet round or something like that. Those are not traditional class sizes. Now, when I say a rug is 8x10, that rug could be 7 feet 1 inches by maybe 11 feet. Because it's divided into class sizes. And with Oriental rugs, they were all handmade. They were all handmade by people who didn't have rulers. So as a consequence, finding an antique Oriental rug that is exactly 8x10 or 9x12 is probably going to be pretty rare. So that's what I mean when I say class size. So this one, 27 by 35, is a 2x3. It's a little bigger than 2 and a little smaller than 3, but that's the class size. When I purchased the pad for this rug, I did not want to get a rug that for like a standard 2x3, because for one thing, it's going to be like 1.5 inches on the long sides because it's 27 inches, not 24. And often the pads are not exactly 2x3. They'll be, for example, maybe 20 inches by 30 inches, something like that. So the pad I bought is 3x3 because I am going to cut it down to 26 by 34 and leave a 1/2 inch around the rug. That will not be on the pad. So the pad goes down, rug goes down on top of it. Now, the reason you want a pad, and the one I got was felt and rubber, as opposed to any of the modern pieces or jute or whatever, is because I really like this little rug. And also, it's pretty threadbare, but that's okay. We'll talk about that in a minute. And in order to extend the life of the rug, you need a good pad. So, the cost on these pads, and in fact, I got 2 pads because I have another 2x3 rug that has, I just picked up a cheap pad for it at the time, and I figured while I was buying decent pads, I'd get 2. The other rug sits in front of my front door, and as a consequence, it kind of takes a lot of a beating. But it's a new rug. It's an Oriental, but it's a modern Oriental. These are made in India. We usually don't get them from Iran anymore. Iran is the traditional home of the great Oriental rugs. They come from all over the Middle East, though. The rug that Colleen bought for me is what we would call a Wilton. Now, again, this is just a generic term. Wilton was a manufacturer of loomed Oriental style rugs. And they were very popular at the turn of the century. And that was just one company. Many companies made them. But in general, this type of rug is called a Wilton, even if it was made by another company. So this nice little Wilton is going to get a very good pad. When the pad comes in, I'm going to take my metal yardstick, which you saw in the slideshow, and a very sharp knife, and that's how I'm going to cut the pad down so that the rug will be very well protected on the other side. It will also help keep it from slipping. So that's why the measurements are important and why I wanted to take them immediately so that I could order the pad right away. The next thing I did was vacuum both sides of the rug. And as you may have noticed, I vacuumed the underside. With a small rug like that, it's easy to turn. In fact, even with a big rug, you should do it even if it's difficult to turn. You want to vacuum both sides. You want to get as much loose dirt as possible. The best way to prolong the life of your rug, aside from a good pad, is to vacuum it frequently, because the dirt gets into the fibers of the rug, and as you walk on it, the dirt sort of abrades at the fibers of the rug and destroys them over time. So always vacuum. Now, this rug was vacuumed back side, then front side. Then I wanted to take a look at the fringe. So I took a scrub brush, and you saw that was sitting right on the rug. I took a scrub brush and brushed the fringe out so that I could see, what it looked like when it was all laying out the way it was supposed to. Now, in this case, the fringe, as you saw, was very uneven. It was worn down almost to the nubs in some places. I am replacing the fringe on this rug. Now, you can do that. That's okay. Fringe replacement is something that ordinarily happens, especially when the fringe has been applied. It happens over time. The fringe gets worn, not a big deal. It doesn't harm the value of the rug to have new fringe on it. So even a fine Oriental, if it has applied fringe, you can feel free to change it out. Now, in this case, what I did next was I laid that metal yardstick across the fringe with my scissors, snip, 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 to even the fringe off. That's what I would have done if I wanted to keep the fringe. But in a subsequent picture, you could see that even when I evened it off, that fringe was still tatty and worn in places. So that was the reason for my decision to replace it. If it had been in better condition, it would have stayed. But, like I say, replacing the fringe on a rug is not a big deal because it's not part of the rug. With some Orientals, in fact, with a lot of the older Orientals, my living room rug, for example, the fringe is woven right in. It is not an applied fringe. So you just sort of leave that alone. Well, actually, I say you leave that alone, but a good rug cleaner will often bleach it. Which brings me to my next point. The new fringe that's coming in is going to be off-white, much, much lighter than the fringe that is on the rug now, or was on the rug when you saw it. And that is another thing that is traditional with Oriental rugs. They actually bleach the fringe out white. It's just a thing. So this is a nice little rug, so I want to give it the same nice fringe that a really fine, expensive Oriental rug would have, which means white. So the fringe I got is actually off-white, but it's lighter than what was on it, but not pure white. It is, however, the same style, only it's shorter. I think that rug will do better with a shorter fringe. So you saw what it looked like, and you understand, hopefully, why I'm replacing it, because the fringe was just not good enough to keep, especially because not really being part of the rug, the fringe is not, it's not an integral part of the piece. Next thing I did, and this is why that white face cloth was on the rug. I took a white face cloth. You want it to be white. And I wet it with cold water, put it on the rug in an area that had a lot of strong color. And that was the border along the edge. And I stepped on it until I really, got that, got the rug to transfer anything it was going to onto the cloth. I did this to test for color fastness. You always have to do this before you wash a rug. Now, if the rug is color fast with cold water, which mine was, we go on and test with hot water in case we need to use it to remove stains. But if it's not color fast, try again with salt mixed in with the water. Salt will usually preserve the dyes. Now, I didn't need to do that. That was a Wilton. I was very certain it was color fast. But it's a step you should try in any case, always, just to make sure. I know about these rugs, so I know what kind of rug it was. If you get an unknown rug, a lot of the very nice tribal rugs from the Middle East are not color fast. And if you start scrubbing them, you are going to ruin your rug. It's not just you're going to permanently damage your rug. We're beyond damage. We are in the realm of ruined rug. Let the cat sleep on it, because that's all you're going to be able to do with it. The red is the one to watch for, because of all of the colors that are unlikely to be color fast, red is the worst of the culprits. And this rug has a lot of red in it. So I test with cold water, then I test with hot water. I did not need to use hot water on it, but as I say, if it ever gets a stain, at least I know I'm free to do that. The next thing I did was I looked at the underside of the rug and I found staples. Because the fringe was applied, and over time these applied fringes can become loose, and I'm sure you must have noticed that one side of the fringe had come up in the corner. A lot of people do very strange things to reattach it. In this case, there were staples in 3 of the corners. So I checked for staples or anything else like that. And I did find the 3 staples, and I removed them. Next, I removed the fringe. Now, the fringe was sewn on. So, as you saw from the slideshow, that little thing that was there was my very sharp wallpaper knife. And that was how I cut the threads. On one side, I could simply just tear it off. The threads were crumbling. On the other side, I had to cut. I could have used a seam ripper, but I find that in this case, it's easier for me to just take a sharp razor knife and cut through the threads. Obviously, you want to be careful that you're not cutting the rug. I didn't have to worry about the fringe because I was not keeping it. So, sewn on fringe, always a good sign, because, somebody took the time to stitch it on. So I removed the fringe, and by the way, I included a close-up of the rug. Hopefully you will be able to see the little threads where it was sewn on. Then once the fringe was removed, I brought it outside to scrub it down. I did it on the schoolhouse porch. A rug like that you can do in your bathtub if you really want to. I wouldn't advise it. It's so much easier to do it outside on a nice concrete surface. I used Dawn dishwashing liquid and the very same scrub brush I had used to brush out the fringe. Just lather it up, scrubby, 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 and hose it off. Then I put it in a sunny spot to dry. It will probably take 2 days to dry. I will move it. I'll move it repeatedly in that 2-day period. I've already moved it twice because I want to make sure that it completely dries. When it gets to the point where it's fairly dry, I might hang it over the railing to let it dry the rest of the way. It's a small rug. It's not going to be hard to do that. I've done that with rugs up to about an 8x10 size, hung them over railings. And again, not that hard. But you want to make sure the rug is completely dry, 100% dry. And the best dryer out there is sunshine. So at this point, while the rug is drying, we are almost done. The 2 steps that remain is getting that pad and getting the pad cut to size. And as I say, that'll prolong the life of the rug. It's also going to make it very cushy to walk on, and underfoot, it's going to feel like a much less threadbare rug. And then when I get the fringe, I'm going to apply it. There are 2 ways to apply fringe, and I know I'm going to hear from the hot glue haters. Hot glue is one, and hot glue that's how they are applying trim to upholstered pieces these days. So, or it can be stitched. In all likelihood, I will stitch it. I'm going to have to see the fringe that I get, and the fringe that I got was 100% cotton. It's surprising how hard it is to find 100% cotton fringe these days, but I'm going to have to get some very heavy-duty thread to deal with this. The thread that had been used on this was a nylon thread, I think. It was definitely not a natural fiber. I might use linen thread. Linen thread is wonderful for old pieces, but this is really important. Linen thread has to be waxed. So you get your linen thread and you get your little wax pot, and you just pull the thread across the wax and make sure that the thread is waxed. So and the reason for this is linen thread is coarse and slubby. Slubs are little extra bits of fabric that are not fabric, thread, linen, that will be on your piece of thread. And because it's natural, it's not perfectly smooth. It's not like the manufactured polyester threads you get today. It's like, oh, perfect. It's a natural material. It's not going to be perfect. And if you come across a little slub as you're pulling the thread through your fabric, you can end up breaking your thread. So what I'm going to look for is a good quality thread. And then I will attach it. I will attach it by cutting the fringe 2 inches longer than I need it and wrapping 1 inch over on each edge to the underside. Super simple. So, and when it's stitched, it's just sort of in, out, in, out, in, out. But you do it in a zigzag pattern across the border of the fringe to hold it securely. And so when it has its pad and it has its fringe, it will be done. Obviously, I'm not getting it. Audie's already spoken. It's going to be Audie's. Nevertheless, it'll go in my home on my floor, so I'll get to look at it once in a while. I won't get to sleep on it because the cat will be there. In general, that is like a crash course on taking care of your rugs. Now, what I didn't have to do, because if you have old vintage antique rugs, you might have to do this. I got lucky. This is nice. There were no damages. There were no holes or tears in the rug. If there had been, that process, the repairing of that, would have been done pretty much before I did anything else. When you restore and refinish a piece of wood furniture, the first thing you do is make your repairs, and then you take the old finish off and strip it and whatever, not the other way around. In the case of a rug, vacuuming it repeatedly and washing it and scrubbing it can turn a small hole into a big hole before you even realize it's happened. So always the first thing you want to do is make a repair. I know you're probably thinking, oh my God, you would just sit there and sew on a filthy rug. Yes, I would. I would. It's just the way it's done. I did not have to do that. If you had to make a repair, again, there are a couple of ways you can do it. Number one, a needle and thread. In most cases, it's remarkably easy because a thread has a pile that's going to hide your stitches. It has an intricate design that's going to hide the tears. Not that hard at all. We didn't have to do this. But if this is something that you feel you are just not capable of dealing with, then we pull out the hot glue and you put any kind of backing you want. I keep canvas for this purpose, but anything will do. A nice strong piece of fabric up to and including something you've cut off the kids' old outgrown blue jeans. And you just glue the rug onto that backing and it will work. It will hold up. Because remember, the people who don't like hot glue don't like it because it doesn't cope well with temperature changes. I agree with that 100%, by the way. The good thing is it doesn't seep through. Many glues will seep through to the front of your rug. You don't want that. You can't have that. You need a glue that's going to stay on the surface of the back of your rug. Then you slap your patch on it, flip it over, and good as gold. But that too is a remarkably easy fix. The most important thing that I want to stress is if you've got old rugs, protect them, take care of them, save them. There are so many things you can do to breathe new life into an old rug. Now, I am sorry I do not have a picture of the rug, dried, cleaned, and whatever, but this is an ongoing project. And in fact, this is a project that, let me see, I got the rug on Friday, did the project, and I'm filming this video on Saturday. You're seeing it on Sunday. I don't have my pad or my fringe. I've just ordered them. With any luck at all, I will be able to snap a picture of this rug within the next week or so to show you what it looks like when it's all done. So let's take another look at that slideshow. Now that you know everything I did, some of those pictures will probably make more sense. So here we go. hopefully this will have been a project of use and value to you. Pads, vacuuming, those are the two things you can do that will make your rugs last longer, look better longer, feel better underfoot, function better because they won't be sliding around. Just so remember that. Pad, vacuum. All right, let's take a quick look at JLS's beautiful horizon pictures. Just calm ourselves down into a good place, and I will see you all tomorrow.